Ladies and gentlemen, I have a big favor to ask from you. I just learned that there's something called a Chipotle celebrity card that apparently if you get famous enough, you get free Chipotle for life. So what I need from you is to go down there, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and help me get one step closer to free Chipotle for life. But beyond that, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight because we are going to be hopping in a real money fantasy football draft. We just pulled pick 10. Pick 10 is going to be a little bit unique based on the players falling there. And I will say draft boards are dramatically changing with the news that we have had pretty much over the past week. We went months with nothing, everything remaining the same. And now we have DK Metcalf signing his extension. We have Julio Jones in Tampa. We have Ramondre Stevenson running with the once. We have James Robinson not being on the PUP. We have Michael Thomas at practice. We have so many things changing right now, so many things affecting fantasy football drafts and where these values may line up. Hopefully this live 2022 fantasy football draft, this is a real money draft, is going to be able to help you out and to determine what these new player values are. But let me know what y'all think of this news down there in the comment section over there in the live chat. We're going to pull up that live chat right now. Of course, thank you so much if you just came out and decided to spend your Thursday night with us. I appreciate all of y'all. We just sent out a link to join our next draft on Underdog Fantasy. If somehow, some way, there's a single person in this draft that's not drafting on Underdog Fantasy yet, fix your life. Link in the description, link in the live chat. We draft on here every single day. We have these live streams every single night, so you can draft with me, you can crush me, you can draft with everybody else on the live stream. And when you go to draft on Underdog Fantasy and sign up for the first time with promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You'll get our 2022 rankings. You'll get our 2022 draft guide, almost 300 pages for literally just a $10 deposit. Fix your life. Go take advantage of that right now in the live chat or in the description of the video. I honestly don't even feel like we need to say anything so far through the first 7 picks of this draft. It's been incredibly standard. The first 5 players should go off the board in every single one of your fantasy drafts this year. You should have Jonathan Taylor 1, Christian McCaffrey at 2, and then some combination of Kupp, Jefferson, Chase through the next 3 picks. I prefer them in the exact order they went off the board. I'm pushing Stephon Diggs up a little bit higher than a lot of other people, so I like seeing them there. And based on what we have with this draft, not necessarily making us just go for the highest ceiling possible. We only have to beat 11 other owners here. This is not going to be a tournament style draft. I'll be fine taking Najee Harris at pick 10. I think in casual formats, I'm probably not going to be drafting Najee Harris that often, given the fact that he'll be going a lot higher than this. You'll see him in casual formats get closer to pick 6, pick 7. I'm usually preferring going ahead and taking Stephon Diggs, as I've talked about in every single live stream we've ever done. So I don't think we really even need to talk about it much more. But we will have some great running back value making it back to us. Possibly we end up with a player like Joe Mixon, but we'll get to that. Now, we have Joe Mixon, CeeDee Lamb off the board, pick 12 and 13. So I hate where we're at right now. Oh, dear God. This is like the worst spot to be picking in. Philly fan on the clock. After taking Devontae Adams at pick 11, they go DeAndre Swift. Thank God. Oh, okay. Never mind. I was complaining about this draft spot, thinking that we are going to end up having to take Aaron Jones here at the 203, but instead we are going to be able to take Travis Kelce. I think if we're going to go ahead and look at Travis Kelce and pretty much every single player in Kansas City this upcoming season, I think they're very obtainable at their price points. I still want to stand by the fact that historically, with the efficiency we have seen from Patrick Mahomes, we should expect this to be a top 5 team in overall points scored and yards, even with the departure of Tyreek Hill. And these guys are very reasonably priced. Like I said in the live stream last night, even though it makes me sound like a complete fish, even though I probably am a complete fish, complete donkey, and I have no idea what I'm talking about, Patrick Mahomes has slowly but surely been climbing our ownership rankings. And now he is my most drafted player with over 400 drafts under my belt because he goes in the middle of the 5th round. I have a ton of Clyde Edwards-Helaire now that he's fallen to the end of the 8th. Y'all know I've always had a lot of Travis Kelce, getting him at the 1-2 turn. The one guy I don't have a ton of in this offense is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster, but it's because it's really awkward to draft Juju. I mean, he goes neck and neck with Mahomes. I'm going to prefer taking Patrick Mahomes and then grabbing Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, or a Clyde Edwards-Helaire later on for the stack. Derek coming out, have not seen you out here in a while. My man says, yo, haven't been able to catch you alive since you got back. How was Alaska and what did you go for? By the way, we need everyone to hit that like button. Yes, sir. Of course, thank you so much for always coming out to these live streams, always showing some love. Appreciate you. Went to Alaska, pretty much fun trip with my family. Girlfriend went, entire family went. So it was a lot of fun. And y'all know I am a draft addict. I am a live stream addict. I'm a fantasy football addict. So once the season comes around, we are about to get to August. I'm about to live stream for like 200 days in a row. This past football season, I live streamed every single night for almost 200 days in a row. There were 2 days I had to take off through a span of 200. There were 2 days I had to take off, and that was just because I was deathly ill and I couldn't get up in live stream. My voice would have been like, hopefully this year we can hit 200 days straight. So figured it would be a good idea to take a small break before we fire up the real grind, which y'all know. We're grinding 24/7, 365 days a year. Video every single day. Doesn't matter when it is. But Nick Chubb going off the board, pick 27. Looks like I'm going to have a lot of Nick Chubb this year. We've talked about this time and time again. Right now, it looks like the Cleveland Browns are going to have a top 3 offensive line coming into the season in 2022. Nick Chubb is no longer a player that you have to take at the end of the first round. Instead, you're getting Nick Chubb here at pick 27. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Mason, Nick Chubb never falls to pick 27. Look at where he goes in the ESPN drafts, yada, yada, yada. No, go get in some real money fantasy football drafts on Underdog. It's not like he occasionally falls to the 3rd round. His ADP is in the 3rd round. His ADP. That's why I have a ridiculous amount of Nick Chubb this year. I'm going to continue to walk away with a ton of him. And here, we're in a very awkward spot. We took Kelsey in the 2nd round, so I can't take Kyle Pitts here in the 3rd. Maybe if it was a tournament-style draft and we try to create a unique roster, then yes, I can talk myself into it. But not when we're just drafting against these 11 other owners and we're trying to score the most points throughout the season. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown dealing with a small injury. Shouldn't be a big deal. I really like taking Hollywood Brown in this format in particular because this is a league where it's just who could score the most points through the first 17 weeks of the season. It doesn't matter if all those points come in week 1, 2, and 3. With points in weeks 1, 2, and 3, because this specific format does not have a fantasy football stretch at the very end of the season, they matter just as much as points in weeks 15, 16, and 17. So I'm going to prioritize getting Hollywood Brown in a format like this, where we expect his production to be front-loaded, given the fact that DeAndre Hopkins won't be there for the first 6 weeks. I think you could talk yourself into Travis Etienne. I would have talked myself into Travis Etienne if it wasn't for the report that we had earlier this week that James Robinson avoiding the PUP. I still think Travis Etienne is a great candidate to take here at the beginning of the 4th round. As we've talked about time and time again, Etienne is never a running back that's prime Ezekiel Elliott. He's never going to be prime Dalvin Cook. He's never going to be prime Derrick Henry. He's never going to see a full 3-down workload and get every single touch out of his backfield. But what you may see with Travis Etienne is him turn into Aaron Jones, him turn into Alvin Kamara. Exactly what we said with DeAndre Swift last year. He'll be a running back getting every single target out of the backfield and hopefully every single touch in the red zone, every high value touch out of his backfield. Now, I will say you have to move him down some. Looking at Travis Etienne, you can no longer draft him at the end of the 3rd round because I am worried that James Robinson has a red zone role. I am worried that James Robinson does see carries inside the 10-yard line, which would dramatically change the range of outcomes we're looking at with Travis Etienne. So it sucks. I think we have to move him down some. I think it is close between Travis Etienne and Terry McLaurin. I would really like to know your opinion in the comment section. But yeah, let's go Etienne at pick 39. Just explaining why we decided to pass on him at 34. Golfer Live coming out says, does Julio Jones hurt Evans and Chris Godwin in fantasy, Mason? Honestly, I don't necessarily think it hurts Evans that much. This is what we talked about with our initial reaction as soon as Julio Jones was traded. Mike Evans and his target share in this offense, his red zone role, it's locked in. It's not like that's going to be going anywhere. We can almost say the same thing with Chris Godwin. Look at the splits with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans with and without Antonio Brown in this offense over the past 2 years. It's not like it's a night and day difference for these wide receivers with the presence of Antonio Brown, who is higher than both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in yards per route run over the past 2 seasons. I want to be on record. 2021, Antonio Brown is going to be a much better wide receiver than 2022 Julio Jones will be. And you had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin still dominating this team in target share, still dominating this team in overall fantasy production. I really just think that Julio Jones really hurts Russell Gage. Really hurts Russell Gage. Mike Evans gets hurt a little bit more by the practice reports. Sounds like Chris Godwin's not going to miss the first month of the season, as a lot of people thought he would. So I have seen Mike Evans falling down in fantasy drafts. I wasn't really ever drafting Mike Evans to the 1-2 turn. I hope he falls so I can start taking Mike Evans at the end of the second round so I can get some exposure to Mike Evans. I haven't been able to get Mike Evans at like pick 21, 20, 22 a couple times over the past few days. And it's clearly because people are worried about Chris Godwin coming back earlier than expected, as well as Julio Jones being there. But I have been buying the dip. Okay. So let's go through Allen Robinson at pick 48. So it looks like running backs are going up this board ever so slightly. You have David Montgomery, 43, J.K. Dobbins, 47. Usually you're not seeing these running backs this high. Usually David Montgomery has an ADP around 52. And Dobbins is a running back that falls to the 5-6 turn. So I am happy that we decided to go with Travis Etienne. If this is how this draft room is going to skew, it's going to be a little bit more running back heavy. And I will say, if we were in a public draft room and this wasn't just members of the flock drafting, I would have thought that there would be a chance that we have Patrick Mahomes making it back to us at 58. There have been some drafts I've done on Underdog Fantasy where we had Travis Kelce at the beginning of the second round and Patrick Mahomes making it back to us at the end of the 5th. One of the most exciting things you could ever see. And oh my gosh, you cannot believe how I was going crazy at the gym when that happened. I was pretty much running around screaming, yelling at strangers that I just paired up Kelce and Mahomes in the 2nd and 5th rounds. But here in a flock draft, I know y'all aren't going to let that happen. I know y'all aren't going to let Patrick Mahomes fall to pick 58 as he may in a public underdog draft. But Metcalf going at 54. With Metcalf signing his contract extension, nothing changes in terms of his fantasy football value. In dynasty fantasy football, definitely we can have a conversation of DK Metcalf being viewed in a different light at this point. But specifically in terms of his actual value for 2022, not much changes. Now, looking at what we are going to come away with at the 5-6 turn here, obviously we would like to get Kyler Murray in the stack that we may have with Hollywood Brown. But let's just build in some correlation with this Kansas City Chiefs pass catching offense. Let's take Juju Smith-Schuster here, a wide receiver that we talked about at the beginning of the live stream. The one guy for Kansas City I haven't found myself drafting a ton, but I think usually Kyler Murray's going here at the end of the 5th round because whoever took Hollywood Brown is taking Kyler Murray. So we have a shot on passing on Kyler, still getting him at pick 63. It's not guaranteed, sitting at the top of ADP right now, but a big reason for that is the Hollywood Brown team consistently taking Kyler. And if we were to have Kyler fall to us, that'd be very exciting. Now, I am not nearly as excited to take Chris Godwin here at the 5-6 turn as I would be in a fantasy football draft that had a playoff setting. If we needed to prioritize production in weeks 15, 16, and 17, I'm easily just taking Kyler at the end of the 5th round, getting Chris Godwin at the beginning of the 6th. But here, I don't think that's a priority. I think we just try to get as many points as we can, including the very beginning of the season. Given this format, as we discussed, it's going to be a private draft, not one of those tournament drafts with the playoff setting at the very end. So let's go ahead. We'll take Juju Smith-Schuster. If we would have known that Amon-Ra St. Brown would have made it back to us, maybe we decide to go with Kyler Murray and Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jalen Hurts and Juju. But I was expecting that you were going to have both Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Juju Smith-Schuster all off the board here at the 5-6 turn if we decided to take Kyler. Probably a mistake on my part, though. We have LL Beamer coming out. It's his second draft tonight, question mark. Keep it very simple. We had 200 likes in the live stream. We're almost there, and we're in the 6th round. We will fire up another draft tonight. And I do need to give a public service announcement. I've had another probably 10 emails, 10 DMs, like 10 combination of everything today of people reaching out to me going, Mason, I signed up to Underdog Fantasy. I used promo code FLOCK, and I didn't get the draft guide. And yet again, I had probably about 8 of those 10 people then double messaging me about an hour later going, oh, sorry, it was in my spam. Or, oh, sorry, I just got the email. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you are going to see that 100% deposit match immediately. But the draft guide is going to take about an hour to hit your email. It's going to take about an hour to process that you used promo code FLOCK. And then you should see our rankings and our draft guide if you made a minimum of a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. Almost a 300-page draft guide. That should be sitting in your email. If you do not see it within the hour, please check your spam. And then if it's hit 2 hours after you've signed up, then please email me, please DM me. This should never happen. But if somehow something went wrong, just send me the email you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with, and I can check on that. But 9 times out of 10, it's just people not checking their spam or not being patient enough to wait the hour to get that draft guide. Okay. So Patrick says, can't see Jalen Waddle as a league winner no matter how long he plays. My man, I would say if you look historically speaking at the wide receivers that have given you the same rookie season production that Jalen Waddle did as a rookie in his own right, pretty much every single one of those guys has given you a league-winning season. Jalen Waddle, his rookie year compares to rookie seasons that we've had from Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Julio Jones, AJ Green, Mike Evans. Like really the only rookie season performances that haven't led to truly elite league-winning seasons that compared to Jalen Waddle, his rookie year, was Amari Cooper. It's like the only guy that had a comparable rookie season that didn't become a true league-winning player. Adam says, Mason, I know you love Courtland Sutton this year. Where are you taking him at? Okay, if y'all are new to the live stream, Adam here is being a little bit sarcastic. No, I do not love Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton, I hate to admit this. And yes, he goes a little bit later in this draft. I think if you want to take Courtland Sutton here after Terry McLaurin, after Deontay Johnson, after Jalen Waddle, after Mike Williams, I can't make fun of you for taking Courtland Sutton where he goes in this fantasy football draft. I still prefer Justin Herbert, Mahomes, Darren Waller. But Courtland Sutton, I do have ranked as a top 24 wide receiver. If I pull up my 2022 fantasy football draft guide and look at these overall rankings, I have Courtland Sutton sitting at wide receiver 24. I think that's honestly a very fair mark for him as well. I mean, if I'm looking at the overall rankings, it's going to be a little bit lower. It's just, he goes in round 3 on Underdog. That's why I can never draft the guy. I have Courtland Sutton sitting directly behind, specifically at the wide receiver position. Let's look at the wide receiver position. Sitting directly behind Darnell Mooney, Chris Godwin, Jerry Jeudy, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, Mike Williams, Michael Pittman. And it's never, ever the case that he goes behind all those guys in fantasy drafts, which is why I find myself never drafting Courtland Sutton. I have a okay exposure to Jerry Jeudy. I have a crap ton, and I repeat, a crap ton of Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, as well as Melvin Gordon. I'm going with the cheapest guys in this offense this upcoming season. So if we're going to be looking at options for us, God, what the hell do we do? We're going to go Kadarius Toney. I'm going to go with an exciting player. Maybe this is just my lizard brain telling me, oh, go athleticism. Go with some kind of excitement. I can't take Hunter Renfrow over Kadarius Toney. We're looking at Renfrow. I still want to stand by the fact that in games where Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow play together, Darren Waller's the top target in this offense. Darren Waller, in my opinion, will play ahead of Hunter Renfrow on the target totem pole this upcoming season in Las Vegas. So you're telling me that Hunter Renfrow at best, in my opinion, is going to be the third option in the passing game in an offense that has potentially a wide receiver soaking up 25 to 30% of his team's target share in Devontae Adams. If we look at Kadarius Toney and his yards per route run, it was elite as a rookie. Now, of course, his per game statistics are a little bit thrown off. He got thrown out of a game for throwing a punch. And at the same time, this is a wide receiver that, of course, left a couple games injured. So his per game numbers are a little skewed. But if you look at his per snap numbers, Kadarius Toney was fantastic as a rookie. Now we have a super simple pick. A running back that I was not drafting very often when he was going at the very beginning of the 7th round. But now that we are getting him at the beginning of the 8th, sometimes at the end of the 8th, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a running back that I am drafting time and time again. I tweeted it out today. I've said it before. I just think that you are going to be looking back in 6 months and going, how the hell was Patrick Mahomes a 5th round pick? How was his starting running back an 8th round pick? How was his wide receiver 1 at the end of the 5th? How's his wide receiver 2 at the end of the 10th? How's his wide receiver 3 in the 11th? How is this happening? It may be the only time in Patrick Mahomes' entire career that you are getting this kind of discount on his skill positional assets. I do think the offense regresses some with the departure of Tyreek Hill, but keep in mind, they have a massive upgrade from Byron Pringle to Juju Smith-Schuster. They have a massive upgrade from Demarcus Robinson to Sky Moore. Their one downgrade is going to be Tyreek Hill to whatever combo you want to say replaces them in Marquez Valdes-Scantling as well as McCole Hardman. But the depth with the receivers, the depth with the receiving core in Kansas City gets better. Obviously, the top-level option gets worse. I think overall, you still probably say that you would rather have Tyreek Hill there and some crappy wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s. But I don't think this is going to be a dramatically worse offense. And if we keep in mind the additions that we had within the same division, where you get Devontae Adams going over to Las Vegas, you get Russell Wilson going over to Denver, maybe we see more shootouts in Kansas City Chiefs games. Maybe we see more teams that are actually able to keep up and score as many points as the Kansas City Chiefs, making the Chiefs just keep the pedal to the metal and keep on having one of the fastest running offenses in the NFL. But now we have Ramondre Stevenson, about 4 picks next to Damian Harris. I just wish I could fast forward 2 weeks into the future, 3 weeks into the future, and see where the ADP is on these guys. Like I said, we had the report yesterday coming out saying Ramondre Stevenson are running with the 1s over Damian Harris. Damian Harris was with the second team. I know some people have said it's a fake report, yada, yada, yada. It's noteworthy. I would say Ramondre Stevenson out of the 2 running backs is the only one that has some type of pass-catching ceiling. Ramondre Stevenson's the only guy I've actually drafted really at all in this New England Patriots backfield in fantasy football drafts this year, but I was taking him back when he was going in the 12th. If Ramondre is getting steamed up to the 8th, I can't draft him here. Like, I don't see how we have both starting running backs for the New England Patriots going in the same round as the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe I'm too simple-minded. Maybe I need to really think about it a little bit more. But if we're looking at the same round price for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, or Ramondre Stevenson, I'm taking CEH every single time. Okay, so an interesting spot in that Stafford is the clear value. We don't have any players for the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford's unlike Jalen Hurts, where with Jalen Hurts, I'm fine not stacking him. I mean, we can see him get there based on his rushing upside, and that's it. Stafford has to get there with his passing volume. So it's nice to see Stafford go before us so we don't have to make that decision. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Robert Woods. The issue is we already have so many Kansas City Chiefs players here. We have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We have Juju Smith-Schuster. We have Travis Kelce. It'd be very hard for me to add Sky Moore to this team without having Patrick Mahomes here, because if all of these guys were to hit, Patrick Mahomes is obviously the quarterback 1 in fantasy. So I'd rather take Sky Moore on a Patrick Mahomes build compared to this team in particular. And also, if we're looking at this draft, we are incentivized. Let me remind everyone, we are incentivized to score points in weeks 1, 2, and 3, as well as points in weeks 15, 16, 17. It's not like we're trying to optimize for the final 3 weeks and that playoff setting. Okay, Sky Moore goes right before us. Perfect. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get one of those players that we said were our most drafted guys in Denver. No, I'm not taking Sutton very often. I'm never taking Sutton. Not really taking Jerry Jeudy that often either. But I'm completely fine taking 10th round Melvin Gordon, a running back that split this backfield damn near 50-50 last year. And on top of it, has the contingency value that if something were to occur to Javonte Williams, you potentially have a 3-down bell cow running back and one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL. So we're easily going to go Melvin Gordon. And RS German says Najee Harris or Joe Mixon at 12. I'm going to go with Najee. I understand the excitement around Joe Mixon. Trust me, I was the leader of the Joe Mixon fan club last year, and I still want to be one of the main guys leading that fan club this upcoming season. It will be harder with the increased price point. Remember, oh my God, the funniest thing in the world was last year, people telling you couldn't draft Joe Mixon because he was injury prone. Do y'all remember that? And let's pull this up and let's look at how many games Joe Mixon has actually missed in his NFL career, because it truly was one of the funniest things that I've ever heard, one of the funniest things I've ever had to fight against. a running back that played 14 games as a rookie, 14 games as a second-year player, 16 games as a third-year player, and then he misses 10 games in a single season, and everybody labels him injury-prone. One of the funniest things ever. But you have to take Najee Harris over. Najee Harris led the NFL in snap rate last year at the running back position. Going into year 2, the answer is Najee. Cameron says Rachaad White going way too high. I'll agree in this draft. I do think Rachaad White's price is a little bit rich, but you have to admit, running behind an elite offensive line in one of the best passing offenses in the NFL, he was potentially the best pass-catching running back in this year's NFL draft. Coming out of Arizona State, he had a target share over 20%. And Leonard Fournette shows up to camp 246 pounds. So there are a lot of positives working in the favor of Rachaad White, but I will agree with you. At this price point, it's definitely rich. I wouldn't be drafting him here. Okay, so let's pull this over. Christian Watson falling with his injury. It's no surprise. Ronald Jones off the board. It's not like we're dying to get a running back. I mean, we have the combination of Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Melvin Gordon. Quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts. Tight end, we have Travis Kelce. Wide receiver, we have Hollywood, Juju, Kadarius Toney, and Robert Woods. Sorry, I watered down the wrong pipe. But let's hope that one player does not fall to us. I'm hoping one guy goes off the board right now. Frymuth, 127. Hardman, 128. Okay. I think we're going to be good regardless. I would just rather this guy that I think is a trap in this range, in this format in particular, get drafted, so we just have our pick of these top level options. Gallup goes. Gallup is the guy that I think is the trap in this format. However, in your league that prioritizes points in weeks 15, 16, and 17 with the playoff setup, in your league where you potentially have access to an IR at the very beginning of the season in case Gallup does hit the PUP, I think Michael Gallup is a fantastic selection in that exact format. However, in this league, as we've already talked about, it's just total points scored, cumulative scoring. So there, Gallup, in my opinion, would be about one of the worst picks because Gallup tore his ACL in week 17. Gallup had surgery after Chris Godwin did. Gallup, I think, is actually very likely to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. So I would be completely fine passing on him in this format in particular, taking Kenny Golladay. We already took Kadarius Toney earlier on in this draft, so I guess maybe now we're going to be looking at Daniel Jones as our quarterback too a little bit later on. Okay, so we have a couple interesting names on the way back. Obviously, we are not looking for a tight end in that we already have Travis Kelce. But I will say, in a vacuum, I think Mike Gesicki is one of the best values in this range. He goes to a team where they already have TJ Hawkinson and Zach Ertz, so it's interesting to see them add a third tight end here. I thought we were going to end up taking Gesicki because I figured this team would decide to pass on him. Now that Gesicki's off the board, maybe we need to make a couple of adjustments and push up some of these wide receivers. Very similar to what we were discussing with Michael Gallup. Jameson Williams wouldn't have been someone that I was too excited about drafting. However, if you're in a best ball tournament where it's weeks 15, 16, and 17, yes, there you can go Jameson Williams. Here, I wasn't going to do that, so I'm happy to see him gone. I'm not really too excited about taking Jarvis here with Michael Thomas back at practice. So I think what we are going to do is we're either going to take Jacoby Myers or Darrell Henderson. Now that we have Jacoby Myers falling to us, let's skim forward to see the players that are going to be available at the next go-around. Probably going to want Daniel Jones at the 13-14 turn. And then along with that, I guess running back will probably be the best value at that point. So let's take Jacoby Myers, try to get a wide receiver that's going to be a target hog in New England. Tyquan Thornton has some pretty bad reports coming out of camp. Of course, Thornton doesn't really play the same position as Jacoby Myers, or Myers isn't going to be that field stretching option. I'd say Thornton's probably going to go for the Kendrick Bourne role, if anything. But still, Jacoby Myers should be locked in as probably the wide receiver one with his target share. I wouldn't be surprised if Devontae Parker was a little bit more efficient in terms of his fantasy points per target, given the touchdown upside of that Devontae Parker may have access to that we know Jacoby Myers doesn't. But if we're just chasing raw volume, I think Jacoby Myers is a perfectly fine point here, knowing that we can get running backs in the following rounds. A dog coming out says Mason Lance is better than Russell Wilson and Joe Burrow. Okay, guys, y'all know that there was nobody out here, especially in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I built my entire YouTube channel, my entire brand last year, hyping up our guy, Trey Lance. I would tweet out dumb stuff like, I just took a 23andMe and found out Trey Lance is my dad. Like, you can go and find those tweets from me when I was begging people to take Trey Lance as the top rookie in last year's draft in 12-team Superflex formats, saying that he was by far and away a better option than Justin Fields. And if you took Justin Fields, you should be laughed at, despite most people telling me I was an idiot and Justin Fields was the guy. I've pumped Lance for so long now. However, he is about to finally get his chance. And it seems like I'm not the highest guy in the room on Trey Lance anymore. I still like Lance at his price tag. But if we go and look at his ADP right now, you have to take Lance over Brady. You have to take Lance over Dak. And you're getting to that point where people are taking Lance over Burrow. And I love Lance. I've made the arguments for him time and time again. I've battled those trolls. I have led this fight telling people it doesn't matter if you think Lance is a good NFL quarterback or a horrible NFL quarterback. His rushing upside, Kyle Shanahan, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and the elite offensive line, they are going to give Lance a situation where he can't fail for fantasy football purposes. I've made the argument for so damn long now. But now that we are getting these narratives, Trey Lance over Joe Burrow, I don't know if I can do it. And it pains me to say, trust me, I wish I could go out here and make a Trey Lance video every single day like I did last year. I wish I could, but it's just really tough. Now we have Hunter Henry, 145. A little bit of a lag here, it looks like. Mostert off the board. What the heck? Looks like maybe they put Mostert in their queue and then ended up accidentally auto-drafting. That's going to help us. It's going to push a value down to us, which I need to be thankful for. I think Zachary would probably go Van Jefferson if he falls to him. Zachary ended up taking Matthew Stafford, and he doesn't have anybody else for the Los Angeles Rams, so I'm assuming he's targeting Van Jefferson here and should be very excited if he falls the 4 picks past his ADP to get to him. If we're looking at quarterbacks that we're going to be interested in, like I said, Daniel Jones is going to be our guy if people want to snipe us on Daniel Jones. You do you. I'm not going to take Daniel Jones here in the 13th. We should be able to get him confidently in the 14th, given the fact that Philly fan already has Kyler Murray and Derek Carr. And you have also Jameis Winston and Matt Ryan ahead of Daniel Jones with his ADP. So I think we're a safe bet to get Jones. Chark is off the board. Albert O has some pretty bad reports coming out of camp. We don't have another Philadelphia Eagle player. We can get a pass catcher here in Kenneth Gainwell to pair up with Jalen Hurts. With Albert O, I'm fine with him at his price tag. My issue is we already have Kelsey on this team. I think he is going to fall further down in fantasy drafts given the reports we have out of Denver with Greg Dulcich. So let's might as well take Gainwell here. Let's get the committee running back that should have a role in the receiving game behind the best offensive line in the NFL with our quarterback. And then we'll get Daniel Jones at pick 159. Okay, Ryan, my man, you're going to get muted. Dear God. I did not even see him spamming that over and over again. Okay, so Jameis Winston goes 156. James Robinson off the board. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Daniel Jones. We have the combination of Kadarius Toney as well as Kenny Golladay. Daniel Jones does have rushing upside. Brian Daboll is a very good head coach, or at least we want to believe based on how he was in Buffalo as the offensive coordinator. So let's go ahead. Let's show this team off. We picked at 10. We have Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Melvin Gordon, Kenneth Gainwell as our running backs. I think a very solid running back room, if I'm going to be completely honest. We have the elite level tight end in Travis Kelce. We have an elite level quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Paired him up with Daniel Jones, who we managed to stack with Kenny Golladay as well as Kadarius Toney. We have Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Robert Woods, Kenny Golladay, Jacoby Myers. I do really like this team. Let me know what y'all think of this Julio Jones price point at 162. Let me know if you think I'm a idiot for deciding to pass on Julio Jones in favor of Kenneth Gainwell at pick 154. I would love to know your opinion on that. Sean says, Mason, how do you feel about my team? I am OBS Destroyers. My man would be happy to go through and check out your team for you. Zachary asking the same thing about his team at the 108. Let's do both of those. So here, first, let's check out OBS Destroyers. You know, my man, I love the combination of Stephon Diggs and Aaron Jones. I mean, I prefer Diggs and Aaron Jones over the combination of Derrick Henry and Tyreek Hill this year. We've talked about that at length. I don't feel like we need to talk about it anymore. Josh Allen, 31 to pair up with Stephon Diggs. That's perfect. Cam Akers, I think that's going to be a strong value if you're looking at his upside in an elite level offense. Gabriel Davis in the 5th. My man, I'm not a Gabriel Davis guy, but usually Gabriel Davis goes around pick 42. If you're going to be able to get Gabriel Davis as a double stack with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, and you're going to be able to do so 10 picks behind his ADP, even if I don't like the player, I have to just suck it up. I have to say, great pick there. Adam Thielen, 66, seems a little bit rich, but I mean, it's a flat tier with Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, and Elijah Moore. Joe Burrow, 79. With Burrow, maybe you just say, hell, let's go ahead. Let's take the value. I mean, obviously, you have Trey Lance going ahead of Joe Burrow in this draft, which, like I said, sadly, I'm no longer the highest guy in the room on Trey Lance. We have MVS, pick 90. I'm going to be fine with it. Olave, 103. I think possibly we should push down Olave just slightly, given the fact that Michael Thomas is back at practice. Cordell Patterson, 114. I really like it. Frymuth, 127. I really like that as well, considering the context of this draft. Joshua Palmer, Tyrion Davis-Price, and Julio Jones. I really like your team. Really like that team from the 107, my man. I mean, just going with that Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack to start, there's so much upside there. And for anybody just now coming in, I said at the very beginning of the live stream, if we got 200 likes on the stream, we would fire up another draft after this. Looks like I set the bar way too low because y'all just blew that out of the water. We were about to pass 300 likes in the live stream. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. So we will go ahead. We will fire up another draft after this one. I'm probably just going to make our 2 picks here and then queue up our final guys and then go ahead and hop into the next draft. But let's make sure we can get this set up correctly. Obviously, we have some positive camp reports coming out about George Pickens. Nick says, how many for a third? We'll cross that bridge when we get there, my man. I would say off the top of my head, through one draft, we had almost 300 likes in the live stream. We'll get there in 1 second. Let me make some selections. No reason to take a tight end here. Let's go ahead. We'll take Marlon Mack. Not a super big deal. I think if we were playing in a tournament-style draft where we just need the highest ceiling possible, I'm not taking a 6th running back. I'm just going to stop at 5. But here in this draft, where we only have to beat 11 other teams, I'm definitely just going to take a 6th guy. And we probably want to grab one more wide receiver and then queue up receivers and tight ends from here. But to be completely honest, I think after the Austin Hooper and Hayden Hurst tier, there is going to be a drop-off. So let's take one of Hayden Hurst and Austin Hooper. And then from there, we're just going to queue up a bunch of wide receivers. Okay. So let me set up this next draft. And of course, if you do not know how to join our drafts, all I got to tell you is fix your life. Like, what are you doing? It is July 28th. We've been doing these drafts every single day. Every single day on the live stream for God knows how long now. Go sign up to Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK, and then get back to me. Now, this next draft that we're going to do, just going to be a $10 private draft just between the people on the live stream. I'm going to go ahead and you know what? Underdog just added a 14-person draft. We're not going to do it. Let me know if y'all would want to see a 14-person draft another time. But I feel like it may be a little bit too slow on the live stream, especially if we want to fire up a 3rd draft. I'll say if we get 600 likes in the live stream, we'll get a 3rd draft going. Definitely. If we get 600 likes in the live stream, we will get a 3rd draft going. But let's send this out. It's going to say $10 draft here, and this is where you join the draft. Okay, I just sent that in the live chat for anybody wanting to join. Blake says, Mason, how should the top 5 players go in a non-PPR format? I think you do need to bump up Derrick Henry probably to pick 3 in a non-PPR league ahead of all those wide receivers. I think you could also have a strong argument to move another running back in Dalvin Cook there ahead of potentially Jamar Chase. You definitely need to be prioritizing those running backs a little bit more than the wide receivers. But let's mute anybody spamming and look at the fact that we have a top 4 pick. So if y'all didn't get to see our video from this morning, I recapped our $500 draft that we did on Underdog Fantasy, and there we selected from pick 5. So I was pick 4. I was ecstatic when we had Christian McCaffrey fall to us at pick 4. Not expecting that to happen in this draft. I think the people watching this live stream are probably a little bit sharper. Let me give some shout outs to the people in this draft with us right now. We have Zachary Link, someone very important, a part of the flock. I know we have had so many people read our draft guide, reaching out with positive reviews. All I got to say is thank you so much for the support, and who you need to be thanking is not me. Please go thank Zachary Link picking at pick 3 for us. Of course, I wrote the entire guide, but he designed the guide for us. He made it a beautiful format for everybody to enjoy. So if you could take your time to go thank Zachary Link in the live chat for spending hours of his own time to build that draft guide, to design it for y'all, that of course would be awesome. But what is awesome is us getting Cooper Kupp at pick 4. I made a video today that will come out tomorrow about my top 10 wide receivers drafted on Underdog Fantasy so far this offseason. I was very surprised to see that Cooper Kupp is in my top 10 wide receivers drafted. I had to think about this for a second on how that could be possible, how Cooper Kupp could even be there. And then I realized, hell, I guess occasionally you will have a rogue drafter deciding to take Justin Jefferson over him, and I'm always taking Cooper Kupp over Jefferson. So it looks like I have a decent amount of eggs in the Cooper Kupp basket this year, which I'm going to be completely fine with, given the fact that this is a wide receiver that broke fantasy football last year. There's no reason in even talking about it. Yeah, you have no Robert Woods. Yeah, you have no Odell Beckham Jr., but it's not like the situation is that different. Keep in mind they bring in Allen Robinson. They still should have a capable wide receiver too there. So I think it's going to be a very easy draft pick to make. But let's go ahead and try to make this selection in our other draft. But that is an issue. And maybe at the end of this draft, what I can do for everyone is I can pull up my $1,000 draft and I can get your opinion on it, because I'm currently on the clock in our $1,000 draft at I believe at the 6-7 turn right now. I have the 101 in our $1,000 draft. I would like to know your opinion on it. We'll get to that at the very end of this, but we have a run on running backs. Devontae Adams has fallen to pick 14. We don't even know if Adams or Lamb are going to go off the board here at pick 14. Adams goes 14. Really interesting to see these running backs and Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift get pushed up ahead of them. Maybe we need to change our draft strategy for running backs at the 2-3 turn here, looking at how these players at the end of the draft are going to be devaluing the wide receiver position compared to their regular ADP and where they usually go in these drafts. Let's slide this down. It's like we are on the clock in our other draft. Let me make that pick in the other one. Aaron Jones picks 17 to pair up with Derrick Henry. I love that second round Aaron Jones value. I'm going to continuously draft Aaron Jones when we get the chance in the second round. After we take Kupp, it's not like we need to slam in another wide receiver here. I'm not going to be afraid to do so if they are the best player available, knowing that we can draft 6 running backs in this format. A dog coming out says, Eckler is not a top 10 running back in real life. My man, what are you talking about? In an NFL game where the passing down ability for running backs almost matters more than anything else in this version of the NFL, you're going to say Eckler's not a top 10 running back when it comes to real life talent? I have no idea what you're on. I have no idea. We're going to take Tyreek Hill at the end of the second round. I haven't drafted a ton of Tyreek Hill. I have way more Jalen Waddle. I mean, when Jalen Waddle falls to the beginning of the fourth, I do think it's in the range of outcomes for Jalen Waddle to outscore Tyreek Hill on a points per game basis this upcoming season. But it is what it is. Tyreek Hill sitting best player available according to ADP, and I'm fine with one of the running back values that we can get making it back to us at the end of the third round compared to some of those other wide receivers there that are going to be a little bit grosser. We will go ahead. We'll take Tyreek Hill. It's not the end of the world. Now, Leonard Fournette goes directly after us. Javonte Williams goes at pick 23. So it looks like the other running back that we would be looking at if he were to make it to us at pick 28 would be Nick Chubb. He made it there in the last draft. Nick Chubb makes it there very, very often. If not, we're going to start with 3 wide receivers in a row in this one. Michael Pittman Jr. goes at pick 24. He's a wide receiver that I wasn't going to be too interested in. I would prefer Higgins. I prefer A.J. Brown. I prefer Keenan Allen. So I'm honestly kind of fine seeing Michael Pittman Jr. off the board. T. Higgins goes at pick 25 as well. Mr. Steff says, Mason just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work, and I finally made it into a draft. I was at pick 3 in the last draft. Thank you, my man, for coming out drafting with us. You know, I appreciate it. Hopefully you're enjoying these live streams as much as I'm enjoying recording them. But it looks like Zachary is going against us here. He's going with the 3 RB start with a combination of McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, and Nick Chubb, where we're right next to him going with the 3 wide receivers. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see if we're able to find some running back value later on. Maybe we get round 5, David Montgomery. Maybe we get round 6, Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll have some fun with this. We'll see what we can do. Derek says, so how many likes for the next draft? Let's do a 500 likes. We'll fire up another one after this. 500 likes, we'll get a 3rd draft going tonight. It's not that late. I mean, it's only 8:45. We can probably get another one going. I said 600 originally, but it's earlier than I thought it was. We'll just do 500 likes. We'll fire up another one. But Mike Williams, James Conner off the board. At this point, of course, we want wide receivers drafted. We want to see these wide receiver names fly. We want Hollywood Brown off the board. We want Waddle. We want Deontay. We want Sutton. We want Gabriel Davis. Get these guys off the board. Okay, DJ Moore, pick 32. Cal Pitts, 33. And I don't think we've said this live stream. Let me say it just one time a draft because I'm tired of getting emails about this. Guys, yes, if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, you can A, have a ton of fun in drafts. B, with just a $10 deposit, get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, almost 300 pages of quality information, and they match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So you're getting paid to play fantasy football, getting our draft guide for free, getting our rankings for free, and you can draft with us in the live stream. We do this every single night. I've done over 400 of these drafts because there's nothing more fun than drafting on Underdog. You can find the link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. And with the way you get that draft guide, be patient, okay? You're going to see the 100% deposit match happen immediately when you use promo code FLOCK. If you decide to deposit $20, that is immediately going to be doubled that second to 40 when you use promo code FLOCK. But the draft guide is going to take about an hour to get emailed to you. It's going to take about an hour to get registered in the system and be emailed to you from Underdog Fantasy. And it may go into your spam. So when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, with the link in the description, check your email about an hour later. And if you do not see it there, check the spam and it should be sitting there waiting for you. But thank you. Thank you. I cannot tell you how many emails I've gotten over the past 2 weeks saying, hey, Mason, I signed up promo code FLOCK, never got your draft guide. And then 2 hours later, they say, okay, never mind, found it. Okay, so let's go ahead. We have Hollywood Brown going pick 40, Terry McLaurin at 39. Now, Hollywood Brown was a wide receiver that I would have taken if he fell to us at pick 45, just because the points that you should get through the first 6 weeks of the season in this format are going to be so damn valuable. It'd be hard to pass up on, but we still need running backs making it to us. I'm not going to complain if all of a sudden we're looking at Cam Akers at pick 45. But a couple of these other teams, like Mr. Right Now, pick 44, also does not have a running back. He has Chase, Deebo Samuel, as well as Josh Allen. So I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up seeing him decide to go with Ezekiel Elliott in front of us. Justin Herbert goes pick 43. Okay, that's a team that's going all in on the Los Angeles Chargers. They go Austin Eckler round 1, Mike Williams round 3, Justin Herbert round 4. Okay, so Mr. Right Now on the clock. Let's see this. Y'all know who I want. Oh, they take him. They take Darren Waller. Darren Waller was going to be our top option. Don't love Ezekiel Elliott in drafts this year. I mean, in casual formats, you're going to see Ezekiel Elliott go in the 3rd round. I think that's very bad. But on this roster construction, hell, we need a running back. We get Zeke at pick 45. I'll be fine with it. I thought we were going to go Darren Waller, but it's not the end of the world. Derek coming out with a donation. Yet again, thank you, my man, of course, for supporting the channel. Says, even if we don't get the 500 likes on the live stream, how about another $10 draft? My man. Let's not even talk about that, because the possibility we do not get 500 likes on this live stream, 0%. 0%. We're only in round 4 in this draft, and we are only 120 likes away from 500. We're getting to 500 likes in this live stream. Don't you worry about it for a second. We are going to be able to fire up another draft after this one. Lamar goes pick 48. Brandon Cooks 49. I was going to be excited to take Lamar if he fell to us at the beginning of the 5th, but I got a feeling, ladies and gentlemen. I have that feeling. Maybe Zachary does it to us. No, he goes Allen Robinson. And yeah, he may be my most drafted player in fantasy at this point. But this is why. When I'm sitting on the clock and I'm forced to choose between Patrick Mahomes, George Kittle I draft a lot of. I don't want to talk down on George Kittle. But Patrick Mahomes versus players like Rashad Bateman, I have to take Patrick Mahomes here. My lizard brain malfunctions. I see Patrick Mahomes on the board in the 5th round, and I'm a simple man. I'm sorry, but I'm a simple man. I'm like Simple Jack. I see Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round. I draft Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round. I do not overthink that. Now, after we take Mahomes, of course, we are going to be looking for some of our favorite targets. We're going to be looking at 8th round Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We are going to be looking at, I will say, I got so lucky in a draft. I believe it was about 2 weeks ago. I think it was right before we went to Alaska. I ended up getting Patrick Mahomes at like pick 57 and then having Juju Smith-Schuster fall to us in the 6th round. I think I'm one of the very few teams on Underdog that's had the Patrick Mahomes, Juju Smith-Schuster stack and not taken that at the 4-5 turn. So I am very excited about that. But I can't expect for us to get Juju on the way back in the 6th. So we're going to be looking for the Marcus Valdez-Scantling. We're going to be looking for the Sky Moore. We're going to be looking for the McCole Hardman. We're going to be looking for the Ronald. There are so many Kansas City Chiefs players at decent price points later on that I'm comfortable taking Mahomes in the 5th and finding that stack option later. Okay. Brock says, can you explain your hype towards A.J. Brown? I'm very low on him. Yeah, with A.J. Brown, I'll admit there's some serious red flags. You're looking at this Philadelphia Eagles offense last year with one of the more aggressive rush to pass ratios in game neutral environments that you see. So this is a team that wants to run the ball. This is a team that had, I believe, only 6 games with over 200 passing yards for Jalen Hurts last year and about 10 games with less than 200 passing yards. So A.J. Brown's leaving a low volume passing attack in Tennessee to another low volume passing attack in Philadelphia. However, there's a difference in that in Tennessee, who did A.J. Brown compete for with targets? He competed for targets with Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. That's it. His target competition was Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. 2 years ago, yeah, he had Corey Davis. Now he's going over to compete for targets with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert. Probably the 2nd and 3rd best receiving options he's ever played with outside of in college, of course, with DK Metcalf. And little known fact, the final season for A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf there, you also had Dawson Knox as well as Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was a true freshman, so of course he didn't do anything, but still. Just imagine A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Elijah Moore all on the same NFL roster. But we'll move on from that. So there are serious concerns with the overall situation for A.J. Brown this season. But at the same time with A.J. Brown, if you look at his yards per route run, if you look at his target share, over the past 3 years, the only other wide receivers to be able to get to those marks that A.J. Brown has have been Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson. That's it. A.J. Brown truly is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. Yes, it's a horrendous situation, so we are going to have to push him down to being a 3rd round pick instead of being a late 1st, as his talent would indicate. So I know we are annoying people by saying it's baked into his price way too often. But yes, I'll agree that A.J. Brown is in a bad situation, where that bad situation is baked into his price to the point where I'm completely fine drafting the man. Okay, so we have a little bit of a run on running backs here with Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, and Elijah Mitchell. Those all would have been running backs that we would have considered at pick 69. Not the end of the world. Y'all know I'm not a big Dalton Schultz guy here at the end of the 6th. I think we are going to be passing on Dalton Schultz. I'm going to favor one of these wide receivers, whoever makes it between us with Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, and Elijah Moore. I would say in this format in particular, I probably would decide to pass on Amari Cooper, whereas in a league where you need to prioritize getting points in weeks 15, 16, and 17 for that playoff tournament setting or just your regular fantasy football playoffs, Amari's a little more appealing there because you may have Deshaun Watson back at that point, whereas as I've said so many times before, we should not try to optimize for weeks 15, 16, and 17 in this private draft in particular because it's total cumulative scoring through the course of the season. So if Amari Cooper has to play half the year, which Jacoby Brissett, that is definitely going to cap the overall ceiling that we can see from his final fantasy finish. Miles Sanders goes 68, so these running backs are flying. Thank God we took Ezekiel Elliott instead of Darren Waller in the 4th round. I would have taken Waller if he would have fallen. But now, as I said, I do think we pushed down Amari Cooper given the scoring format in this league. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take Adam Thielen instead of pick 69. I think Amari, Elijah Moore, and Adam Thielen, they're all in the same tier. It's going to be up to you. It's primarily just going to be personal preference. Scissors coming out in the live stream says, how are we doing tonight, my man? Hope that you are having a great night. Hope that you enjoyed the drafts over the past 2 nights. And I have to ask you, my man, I need an explanation. I believe you took Michael Pittman Jr. over Keenan Allen, if I'm remembering correctly, 2 nights ago. I need your explanation on that Michael Pittman Jr. hype. I know a lot of people are on him. I know he had the 25% team target share last year. Maybe it's just I'm not buying into the massive upgrade that you're getting from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. I don't think it's that large of a difference, but let me know your explanation. Okay. Carson says he got Miles Sanders at pick 86 in his last draft. Dear God, if you get Miles Sanders there, you have to be happy. I will say this is early for Miles Sanders. I think it's because the majority of these running backs are scooting up this draft board overall. Like you have, say, Breece Hall going a little early in this one. You have David Montgomery a few picks before his ADP. You have Antonio Gibson early in this as well. So I think it's just Mr. Right now. He didn't have a running back through the first 6 rounds, so him reaching to get Miles Sanders at 68. So usually Sanders does go in the middle of the 7th round, but still, at the beginning of the 8th, it's completely fine. Okay, so Joe Burrow goes 74. Smith is a wide receiver that this looks very similar to our $500 draft. We took A.J. Brown in the 3rd at the 304. Looking like we may get Devontae Smith at the 704. Russell Gage off the board by Zachary. Zachary, I need an explanation from you. I need an explanation from you. What are you doing with Russell Gage, pick 75? Hey, oh, dear God, this is embarrassing, Zachary. I got to pull you aside and let you know something. My man, I'm unsure if you've checked Twitter lately. I'm unsure if you checked RotoWorld. I'm unsure if you've checked YouTube. I don't know if you also were in the Alaskan wilderness. But Julio Jones, the free agent, he's now in Tampa. Yeah, okay, let me repeat myself. Just because clearly you haven't heard. So I'm going to fill you in on a little secret. Maybe it's just my own report, my own sources letting me know, and I want to pass these reports on to you. Julio Jones is signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can no longer draft Russell Gage over Devonta Smith. Okay. But Scissors says, I've taken so much Keenan Allen at the exact same spot, and any normal redraft I'd take him, but I figured I need some Pittman shares. Interesting. Let me know, how many drafts have you gotten in this offseason? Specifically, are you doing a lot of puppy best ball mania, or are you sticking with private drafts? Zachary says, just wait for it, ... D-Town Heat says, Julio Jones will play half the season if lucky. Yeah, if Julio Jones plays half the season, Russell Gage is a bad pick at 75. Like, if I look at my draft guide, we haven't updated these rankings yet after the Julio Jones signing. This is something that I'm letting sink in a little bit, and then we will update these. But I already had Russell Gage as a player that you could no longer draft. Yeah, I made a video months ago saying Russell Gage was a wide receiver with a ton of upside for his draft price, but that's back when he was going in the 9th, 10th round. If I look at my rankings on Russell Gage, this is not even after the Julio Jones signing, I had Gage at pick, I guess 75. We had him after Hopkins. We have him after Michael Thomas. I have Michael Thomas to pick 67. This is before the reports of him being back at practice. It's not like I have to move him up from 67. You're still going to draft him everywhere if you're following these rankings. I guess Michael Thomas picked 66. I didn't even notice that. I am going to be so damn excited if this is where Michael Thomas climbs to. Michael Thomas, my most drafted wide receiver in fantasy, someone that's been going in the 8th round of these drafts. I agree. I think he is the most undervalued wide receiver in fantasy. I think he does need to go up. Love seeing him climb up to pick 66 here. Scissor says, I've done way too many Best Ball Mania and puppy drafts. What I don't like is the fact that the puppy drafts fill so quickly. Like, I'm going to be able to max out Best Ball Mania. I'm probably going to max out Best Ball Mania not tomorrow, but the next day. I think I have about 7 entries left, maybe 6 entries left. I should be able to do 3 tomorrow and 3 the following day. But then you're just sitting on your hands until the next puppy draft opens. And Underdog is so popular at this point. This is what I mean by saying, if you are not drafting on Underdog Fantasy, you have to be the last person on the planet that hasn't. Go sign up right now. Use promo code FLOCK. Because they'll open up those contests, those puppy drafts, and have over 100,000 drafts in the contest or over 100,000 entries. And it'll only be open for a week. So I haven't been able to get in as many puppy drafts as I would like to. Because, of course, there's nothing better than me sitting there daydreaming, me imagining winning Best Ball Mania, winning a puppy draft. And, of course, it would be nice to win Best Ball Mania on Underdog Fantasy and to win $2 million. $2 million would be pretty nice. But what would be better is for me to be able to come out and make a video and go, oh my gosh, the smartest fantasy football player in the world. I would start every single video I made for the rest of my life, letting you know I was the best fantasy football player in the world if we won Best Ball Mania or a puppy draft. Okay. Scissor says, I've already put 2K into Best Ball Mania already. Dear God, my man. How much is it to max enter? Okay, so that's 80 entries. So you're over halfway done on max enter. I don't know if you are going to max enter. I'm trying to max enter before we have major injuries. That way we can try to build that super team. That way we can try to take down the contest. But interesting. Now, of course, y'all know what we want. We want Marquez Valdez-Scantling falling to us on a Patrick Mahomes build. Now, I also really like TJ Hawkinson here. I think if we take Hawkinson, we could potentially get away with only drafting 2 tight ends. So we are going to queue up Hawkinson and MVS. We're going to let Mr. Right Now decide who we're going to draft. I'm going to assume that he decides to take a running back, considering the fact that he decided to reach on Miles Sanders in the 6th round. He goes Hawkinson. So we're going to take Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And yeah, looks like we're going very wide receiver heavy. This is an extremely wide receiver heavy draft. We go Kupp in the 1st, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Adam Thielen, Devonta Smith, Hollywood Brown. Then at quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. At running back, Ezekiel Elliott. Dear God. What's going to be really tough is when we end up getting Sky Moore making it back to us. If we get Sky Moore making it back to us, pick 100. All of a sudden, we're going to be 7 wide receivers in without a second running back, with our only RB being Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, but Scissors, if you're still in the chat, I have to ask you. What is your strongest take this upcoming season? What is your hottest take, most drafted player, maybe someone you haven't taken at all? Maybe you love Courtland Sutton. I don't know. Let me hear it if you're still here. I'd be very interested. Okay, so we have Matthew Stafford off the board. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to roll the dice. We're going to try to figure this out. We're going to get a double stack here with Patrick Mahomes, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Sky Moore. We will take Sky Moore here at pick 100. It's going to be our 7th wide receiver, considering the fact that this is going to be not a Best Ball Mania draft or a puppy draft, and instead we only have to beat these 11 other owners. We are going to easily draft 3 tight ends. We're easily going to draft 6 to 7 running backs, and as well pick up a second quarterback as we really try to piece together our running back room. But at this point, when we are 7 wide receivers in, we really need to hope that people start taking wide receivers. Oh, dear God. Please. I feel like we have to take MVS and Sky Moore there whenever we have Patrick Mahomes. That was our initial plan. Maybe we go back and try to figure out what we could do to change this. We took Adam Thielen, pick 69, Devonta Smith, 76. What running back am I supposed to take here? Am I supposed to take Tony Pollard at 70? Am I supposed to take Tony Pollard over Devonta Smith? I can't do that. I guess maybe you could say the one pick we could go back and change would be our second round selection. If I knew this is how running back value would fly off the board and wide receivers would fall to us, I would definitely hop back in that time machine. I would pass on Tyreek Hill in the second round. And instead, I would go ahead and I would probably take Leonard Fournette there. But it is what it is. Okay. Now, we have Carson saying Curtis Samuel is my most drafted player. Okay. I want to hear everybody's most drafted player. I know 99% of people watching this live stream have been drafting on Underdog Fantasy over the past month. And if you don't know how to go see your most drafted player on Underdog Fantasy, let me show you real quick. Let's do this on my phone. You're going to go to the home screen on Underdog, right? So you see your drafts, hit completed at the very top, scroll down to where you see 2022 season, you hit exposure, and then you're going to have a list of your most drafted players. So please let me know who your most drafted players are and let me know why as well so I can read them out loud. Let me know who your most drafted player is and let me know why they are your most drafted. Scissor says he has 26% MT. Love that, my man. Even bolder than I am. I am very much a chicken and I am staying primarily diversified. MT is my most drafted wide receiver. I think he's only at like 18%, however. Okay. So we have Zach Ertz, Aaron Rodgers. Scissor says, but my hot take is that Albert O is going to be a top 8 tight end in points per game. I think Albert O's price point is now becoming a lot more interesting with the Dulcich reports. I think that I'm with you. Albert O's the starter there. And I don't think Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are going to command as high of a target share that you had with Metcalf and Lockett in Seattle. So I like going after those secondary pass catchers in Denver right there with you. Okay, so let's start reading this. Alberto says, if Josh Allen goes down, I'm going to lose a lot of money. I'm there with you as well, my man. Okay, so DWB says, Donovan Peoples-Jones, my last pick in every draft, is going to be a high-end wide receiver 2 in Watson place. I really like that call with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Of course, that's going to be a very deep call for people playing in best ball, people playing in Dynasty, people playing in deep redraft formats. But I think that he does have weekly spike week potential. If you're looking at just the overall offensive environment that he's playing in, and I like it even more now that you have David Bell potentially missing training camp, opening up that guaranteed second slot for a Mr. Donovan Peoples-Jones. But let's move on. Alex says, Brian Robinson betting on Antonio Gibson losing the starting job. Interesting. I'm assuming you're betting on the fumbling issue, maybe pass protection. I don't know. Okay, but let's find our next person. Okay, are we about to be on the clock? Garrett Wilson, 115. Mr. Right now on the clock. He has Allen, Derek Carr at quarterback, running back Miles Sanders, wide receiver Chase, Debo, Metcalf, Hopkins, tight end Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson. He goes Kenneth Walker. That's what we should expect. What else is he going to do? At this point, we have to go running back. I don't even know if I'm taking Rashad White. I'm going to take Ronald Jones over Rashad White. We're betting on this Kansas City Chiefs offense. I think with Rojo, yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be the starter, but Ronald Jones should still have a role on a week-to-week basis, a random spike week potential with his touchdown upside. And I think if we were playing in a league where we need to worry about weeks 15, 16, 17 production there, we'd probably take the rookie, but I'd rather take the guy that should have a role right away. Okay, so we have Patrick says, a 45% Bryan Edwards last round in the wide receiver 2 on Atlanta. Bad offense, but worth a late pick stash. My man, Bryan Edwards is not someone I've drafted at all. I don't think I've taken Bryan Edwards in a single one. Okay. Now, Andrew says, Kyle Pitts, 1 touchdown last year. Come on, my man, I have a ton of Kyle Pitts. Robert says, Deontay because value, and old Big Ben isn't much better than Mitchell Trubisky. My man, you know that's one of my takes this year. I have Deontay Johnson also as a top 5 wide receiver drafted, I think. Steven says, I get Jacobs as a running back too because I draft a high-end tight end in round 2 or 3. Now, Owen says, Darrell Williams at 46%. Figure he'll be involved in a high-powered offense, especially in the weeks without Hopkins. Huge upside if Connor goes down. I like the call. I've definitely been drafting more Darrell Williams as of late than I was doing when he first signed. One of my biggest regrets, because when he first signed, you could get Darrell Williams in every single draft in round 17. And I was an idiot not taking him there. And now I'm going to pay the higher price. I'm going to take him in round 15 because I agree with you. I do think he has a lot of upside. Okay. McCole Hardman goes 123. I think at this point we will go ahead. We will take Rachaad White. We need to have access to running backs that are going to have roles in their offense on a week-to-week basis and upside if the starter were to go down. So let's take Rachaad White. And real quick, if you are just now coming into the live stream, we said earlier on, if we hit 500 likes on the stream, we will be firing up another draft after this one. So if you haven't done so, go drop a like on the live stream, fire this up, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And you know what? I'm assuming everybody here is already subscribed. Please type in the chat right now. I think you probably actually have to subscribe to type in the chat. But if there was any new viewers that just found us in this live stream or just found us over the past couple days, let me know in the live chat. And let me know how you found us as well. I'd be very interested in knowing if YouTube recommended a live stream, YouTube recommended a video, you found us from another platform. Please let me know in the live chat if you found us within this week and how you did. James says, dropped that flock promo in Underdog today, jumped in a few drafts and got some great value. Thanks to you. Appreciate your channel. No, thank you, James. I appreciate the support. And also, yeah, if y'all want to join our next draft, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. Find the link in the live chat. When you use promo code FLOCK and make your first deposit, they'll match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 draft guide with literally just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. Most importantly, you will have some fun in some fantasy football drafts. Looks like most people are saying just YouTube recommending a video. All right. All right. Lucas says, going to be my 3rd season with the flock. Thank you, Luca. I appreciate you. Okay, so Dameon Pierce going 129. Michael Gallup 130. Kenny Golladay 131. At this point, please just take these wide receivers. Give us some tight end value. Have tight ends fall down draft boards. Have, more importantly, running backs fall down draft boards. We're sitting with Ronald Jones and Rachaad White as our running backs 2 and 3 right now. This is not a great team. I would say we have a crap ton of upside where we are going to be beating teams down. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, the flex spot every single week, especially in a best ball format where we could get some random spike weeks between Marcus Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore. We have the elite level quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. But this running back room is just a train wreck. This is a gross draft. Okay, let's scroll this down. We have Mike Gesicki going 135. I would have really liked having Gesicki make it to us a big 141, especially if we could have taken Tua Tagovailoa on the way back around in the 13th. Like if you could take Tyreek and then still be able to get the Mike Gesicki and Tua Tagovailoa stack, that would be a very unique build. And I really like the price tag on Gesicki since you had Cole Kmet and Irv Smith Jr. getting hyped so much flying up draft boards. Okay, so it looks like we have 2 running backs potentially making it. Jameis Winston off the board. Let's see what these teams do. Andrew says, what are you doing with Alvin Kamara? I keep taking him in the mid to late 3rd. I think with Alvin Kamara, it's very specific with your league format. If you're going to be able to put him possibly on your IR, if he gets suspended, then hell yes, draft Alvin Kamara at the end of the 3rd every single time. If you're drafting in a best ball format and it's going to be cumulative scoring throughout the entire season and you don't have the playoff setting at the very end of the season, Alvin Kamara is undraftable in the 3rd round. If it's going to be a best ball tournament style draft where we need to worry about points in weeks 15, 16, and 17, almost over all else, then Alvin Kamara is one of the best targets in fantasy football. But it would be very difficult to draft Alvin Kamara at the beginning of the 3rd round in a casual format if you have a very shallow bench and you would have to hold him on that bench and takes zeros as the season goes on. So it's really dependent on your league format. It's going to be very important to know the rules of your actual league. I would say in the majority of leagues, I am going to be swinging for the fences. I'm going to be taking that shot on Alvin Kamara at the end of the third every single time. Okay, so let's move this down. Nyheim Hines at pick 141. So slowly but surely, I think we're going to be able to put this running back room together. Hines is a running back that I like in best ball because no, you're never going to know when to start Nyheim Hines. You're never going to know when he does get the 6 receptions, the 60 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. But hell, they'll be able to randomly pop into our lineup that week, potentially as our running back too. It's going to be very valuable in a build like this. Tyler Algier is not someone I've drafted a lot of. I've actually found myself drafting a lot more Cordell Patterson this year than Tyler Algier. Okay, we have BC Athletics has just joined and the title says major news. What is the major news? My man, we've had so many freaking news stories over the past 3 days. We have Michael Thomas back at practice. We have Julio Jones with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ramondre Stevenson running with the ones. James Robinson not on the PUP. Chris Godwin hoping to get back to practice. J.K. Dobbins hoping to get back week 1. Like, this has been the most eventful week we've had in fantasy football in months. Legitimately months. So I think you are going to see a ton of changes with these draft boards from where we're drafting now to probably 2 weeks from now. I think these draft boards are going to look very different 2 weeks from now. And you're already seeing that with Michael Thomas going about 2 rounds higher, about 24 picks higher in this draft than he did previously. And now you have Julio Jones going at pick 133. Let me know what you think of this value on Julio Jones, if it's too early or too late. Ryan wanting us to take Jahan Dotson. I agree with you, my man. Jahan Dotson, round 1 Penn State wide receiver that dominated his final 2 seasons there. His first 2 years there, he dealt with KJ Hamler and Pat Freiermuth as target competition, so it's understandable why he didn't break out until his junior season. I think Dotson is a much better pick and a much better value in these drafts over Tyler Algier. My issue is we've invested so heavily into wide receiver early that I just have to keep on taking these running backs. It's gross. I don't want to talk about it. We made a mistake taking Tyreek Hill in round 2. We should have taken Leonard Fournette instead. I agree with you, but it is what it is. Lonnie says, Mason, can you do some drafts that aren't best ball? To be completely honest, I don't want to. The reason for this is if you fire up a fantasy football mock draft and there's no money on the line, what ends up happening is, like, if you just go to a random site to do a free fantasy football redraft mock draft, people leave halfway through. There are no real stakes. It's completely worthless. You're drafting against the computer most of the time. How is that going to help? And also, I don't want to just be firing up a ton of redraft leagues every single night. I'm already in over 25 dynasty leagues. I already work and live stream probably 80 hours a week during the season. It's not like I can afford to just fire up another non-best ball draft every single night. So best ball is the perfect combination for me, where I can't afford to join 50 more redraft leagues. I don't have the time for it during the season to make those waiver wire claims, to submit those starting lineups. And also, best ball is the best practice drafts because, hell, this is only a $10 buy-in, but because it's a $10 buy-in, there are $120 in this league pot. So everybody's sticking to the very end of the draft. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody's trying to win. So it's by far and away the best practice that you can have. And it's the most fun you can have as well. Okay, so Nico Collins, Jameson Crowder goes pick 157, 158. And I will say also with our draft guide, like I said, you get our draft guide if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Our draft guide is not for Underdog Fantasy. Our draft guide is for your casual league with your buddies, how to crush them. It's not going to be rankings for best ball. It will be rankings for redraft. And also, all our videos are for that as well. We use Underdog ADP because Underdog ADP is the best set of ADP if we're looking at positional value, because all these leagues are real money drafts. Everybody here is 16 plus as well. So I think these leagues are extremely valuable when it comes to their ADP. Andrew says, how many redraft leagues can the average man handle? Depends what your job is. I would say me, whenever I'm live streaming from the times of 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. every Sunday, live streaming all the way until kickoff. Do you have any idea how hard it is to submit starting lineups during the season when we don't know what players are going to be playing and not? It's almost impossible for me to set starting lineups. So the fact that I'm in 25 plus dynasty leagues as is, I will fire up a couple of redraft leagues. It's just so hard for me. It's so hard for me. I win a live stream every single night. I've done over 400 underdog drafts. There's nothing more fun, in my opinion, than drafting on underdog fantasy like we do every single night. I love drafting. Best ball is going to be the best thing for that. Daniel David says, what is best ball? How does best ball work? Okay, real quick. Sorry. If y'all don't know how best ball works, essentially on underdog fantasy, you can go and draft these teams and you do not submit your starting lineup during the regular season. Your best automatic starting lineup is submitted for you at the end of every week. So if you have Nyheim Hines randomly popping off and you didn't know he was going to score that well that week, it didn't matter if you had him on your bench. He's going to automatically slide into your starting lineup. So it cuts out the time of having to submit those starting lineups. And also because we're going 18 rounds deep and you're going to have Paris Campbell, Kendrick Bourne, Curtis Samuel, Wan'Dale Robinson, KJ Hamler, Isaiah McKenzie, Will Fuller, AJ Green drafted in these, you don't have a waiver wire as well. Roster construction becomes extremely important, but it's no time commitment during the season. That's how I'm going to be able to draft over 600 of these teams. I've already done 400 this offseason. But we take Tyler Higbee, 165. I think this is going to be a high-powered offense. We have Cooper Kupp. Maybe make the argument we get some correlation in here with the Los Angeles Rams. I think Noah Fant's less appealing now that you have DK Metcalf re-signed, because on the off chance, maybe the 5% chance Metcalf would have been traded out of Seattle, then all of a sudden could have an increased target share for Noah Fant. That's no longer a possibility, but it is what it is. Let's take Tyler Higbee. We'll move on from here. I don't even know who we're looking at. I have no idea who we wanted this pick. What is this report on Mac Jones? Okay. Mac Jones, seen improvement. Blah, blah, blah. Just a pop piece. Do we end up going Mac Jones here? Quarterbacks that'll be available to us on the way back around. We could be looking at Goff. Running backs would be looking at Brian Robinson. Is Brian Robinson any different than Marlon Mack? Let's just take Mac Jones. Let's go Mac Jones. We'll get our second quarterback, pair him up with Patrick Mahomes, and they'll be good to go from this. Ryan says, is Underdog Fantasy giving you a discount on your best ball drafts? Guys, of course. I mean, these are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is how I'm allowed to spend this much money on these drafts. Like, Underdog Fantasy has given me everything. Like, Underdog Fantasy has been fantastic for this channel. Like, they sponsor this channel. That's why when y'all use promo code FLOCK, that's what allows me to go through and to draft as much as I do. That's what allows me to be in a fantasy football draft 24/7. Okay. So now Marvin Jones goes 174. Perry says 3 sleepers you can grab for $1 in an auction league and go. Okay, so it's obviously going to be very dependent on your actual roster construction in your auction league, how many roster spots that you have. On top of that, not only how many roster spots, but how many teams are in your league, what's the starting lineup requirements. I would say if we're looking for some deep sleepers for only $1, George Pickens, someone that just goes off the board, is going to be someone very interesting. I mean, we talk about this in our draft guide. I know a lot of people say that the wide receiver room's too crowded for George Pickens to be successful in year one. However, I don't necessarily think that's going to be true, because if we go through and if we look at George Pickens this upcoming season and look at the amount of routes run, we wrote this in our draft guide, that are leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers. James Washington had 315 routes run last year. He's in Dallas. Ray McCloud had 314 routes run last year. He's in San Francisco. Juju Smith-Schuster had 137 routes run last year. He's in Kansas City. That's almost 1,000 routes run that are available. Eric Ebron's gone as well. It's not like they're going to be running a lot of 2 tight end sets, though. We'll have 3 wide receivers on the field. So I think George Pickens is very interesting. Okay. So we are going to probably take 2 more tight ends, 1 more running back, and in this draft. And we will fire up another one after this. Like I said if we got 500 likes in the live stream, we would get another draft going. So let me make our 2 selections and then queue up our last position, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so of course, if we get Austin Hooper, that would be pretty exciting. If we get Hooper, I'll probably be kicking myself for taking Mac Jones. and not just going with like a Marlon Mack and then taking Hooper here and then Tannehill on the way back around in the 17th. But Tannehill off the board in the 16th, so it's not like that was even a possibility. Same thing, Austin Hooper off the board as well. Okay, so Mostert, Mark Ingram. I have not taken Mark Ingram. Maybe I've taken him in one draft. I really haven't taken any Mark Ingram at all. I don't really see the upside. Okay, AJ Green, 186. Jerick McKinnon, 187. Okay, we definitely need a tight end. Let's take a running back and then just queue up tight ends from here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take a running back, queue up a bunch of tight ends. Let's go Raheem Mostert, someone that I wasn't drafting at all before when he was going in the 14th round. That was absolutely crazy. Draft him some here. It is what it is. Let me queue up some tight ends, and then I'll set up our next draft. Probably just do a $10 draft. I think that there should be, hopefully, another puppy draft relatively soon. And if that happens, I want to be able to make sure that everybody has a decent amount of money in their accounts. That way they can go through and they can fire up those puppy drafts. So instead, let's do a $10 draft. I'm going to label this $10 draft here. It will be in the live chat. It will say $10 draft here. It's going to be a private draft to do with only members on the live stream. Okay. People are saying, can we please do a $3 one? Okay, please spam the chat right now. Do you want a $3 draft or a $10 draft? A $3 draft or a $10 draft. Y'all are the ones getting in here, so I'll do whatever y'all want. $3 or $10. Spam it. And yes, we will get some more high-stakes drafts going once we get closer to the season. We still have about, 45 days, 50 days until kickoff? We still have a long time to be drafting, so I think we save the high-stakes drafts till at least the month leading into the season. Probably about August 10th is when we start firing those up. Okay, so we have, let's just look at this. Looks like the majority of people are saying 10. Okay. Majority of people are saying 10. Let's spam this $10 draft here. We'll get a $3 draft going for people wanting to join a $3 draft tomorrow. I just sent that $10 draft link out. And let's see how fast this fills. I'm assuming it's going to fill immediately. There we go. We are good to go. Give us a top 5 pick. Give us a top 5. Come on. Top 5. How? See, this is what happens when you are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. You just got to say it in the microphone, and they have a sophisticated AI system on the back end that can hear exactly what I want. If I would have said, give me pick 7, I would have gotten pick 7. If I would have said, give me pick 8, I would have gotten pick 8. It's just right there in the microphone. God, they have an AI system better than Google, better than Amazon, better than Facebook. Gosh, props to them. Of course, all jokes. Please don't go suing Underdog Fantasy or anything, thinking that's true. Of course, that's a joke. Okay. Alberto says, rest in peace. I had to update Underdog, so I was not able to get in. Sorry, my man, that happened. Some people saying that they didn't see the link in the chat. Okay, guys, I clearly sent the link. This got filled in about 10 seconds. 11 other people saw the link. 11 other people were able to hop into this with no issues. Okay, let me just pull up our other draft right now, making sure that we are good to go. Okay, Jonathan Taylor at 101. Nothing to talk about. I don't want to say he has the same level of upside as a Christian McCaffrey, but he still does have a ridiculous amount of upside. And with Mr. Jonathan Taylor, he doesn't have the same injury concerns. Taking him at the 101, it is what it is. I've seen Jonathan Taylor to fall to pick 2. I've seen Jonathan Taylor to fall to pick 3. I can't make fun of anybody for deciding to take Jonathan Taylor behind CMC, to take Christian McCaffrey ahead of him, because I understand the thought process. Obviously, CMC has access to a ceiling that Jonathan Taylor can't come close to. If we're looking at Christian McCaffrey's 2019 season, really only being close to players like Marshall Faulk and LT. I don't think Taylor can get there. But still, as I said, this is an ascending player that really has no concerns. Okay, a lot of people saying the link was delayed for them. I'm going to assume probably because everybody was spamming the chat with 3s and 10s. Probably had like 100 chat messages within 30 seconds. Okay, well, I apologize. How about I don't have people spam the chat before I send out a link anymore? Probably a good thing to do. Avoid people spamming the chat as we send out a link. I apologize for that. You live and you learn. Adam says, Mason, I'm super excited to hear Ramondre Stevenson is running with the ones. I have 75% of him in 110 drafts. Y'all are bold as hell. Y'all are confident, willing to go out there and draft 75% of a player in a draft. I mean, in your draft portfolio. Y'all are way more confident than I am. I like the boldness. I like the call. Oh, dear God, my man. I think my most drafted player is hovering around 20%. Keep in mind, I am doing so many drafts that it would be reckless for me to get close to 40%. That is crazy. Okay, so Aaron Jones makes his way up to pick 14 ahead of CeeDee Lamb. Interesting on this one. Hopefully, we have running backs getting pushed up this draft board compared to what we had in the last one, because we have Jonathan Taylor in the first and not Cooper Kupp. DeAndre Swift goes pick 16. I think Swift is a fine pick at 16. I was calling him the best value in fantasy football when he's going in the mid-third last year. I know a lot of people are calling him the best value in fantasy football when he's going at the 1-2 turn this year, which don't really understand the difference between last season and this season. Mr. Silver says over under on 50 my man's during the live stream. My man, you need to set a much better line than that. That's going to be easily the over. 50. We've been live for an hour and a half. We're going to be live for 2 hours tonight. It's 120 minutes. You're setting the line on 50 over unders for the my man. It's not even one of them every 2 minutes. Come on, my man. If you were in Vegas, if you were a sports book, you'd be bankrupt in a second. My man, fix your life. Come on, my man. Now, Leonard Fournette goes 20. Saquon Barkley, 21. If we take Taylor, I'm fine with Tyreek Hill falling to us. I think we made the mistake taking Tyreek Hill given the draft room we were in the last draft whenever we had Cooper Kupp on the same roster. Okay, T. Higgins going. You know what? We tried going 3 wide receivers in a row in the last draft. Let's try to just take the quote-unquote value according to ADP. Let's try to figure it out a little bit later on. Let's go Javonte Williams, Nick Chubb at the 2-3 turn here. Let's try to figure this out. Washington says, Fantasy Flock, who is your biggest sleeper? What I'll tell you is my most drafted players. Let's do my most drafted wide receiver outside of the top 36 players in ADP. And it's hilarious to call this guy a sleeper. But right now, my most drafted wide receiver in ADP, my most drafted player, Michael Thomas. Wide receiver 40 in ADP. So, yeah, I guess he's a sleeper outside the top 36. People are expecting to be Of course, that's not fair for me to say. Our running back outside the top 36 in ADP, Michael Carter Jr. is going to be my most drafted guy there. With Michael Carter Jr., I think he's appealing in a best ball format that he should have a role at the beginning of the season in a receiving game, possibly some spike weeks. Maybe he hits your starting lineup 1 or 2 times. He should have a small role in his offense, and obviously upside for more if there were to be a Breece Hall injury. Our tight end outside, say, of the top 12 guys drafted, Robert Tonyan, someone that I probably didn't draft in a single draft last year, but this year he's in a much better situation with Devontae Adams out of Green Bay, and a quarterback outside the top 12 that we are drafting. Deshaun Watson is my second most drafted quarterback, but we were taking him a ton when he was going like the 17th, 18th rounds on Underdog Fantasy, where we were trying to chase that highest ceiling possible. Okay. So Glitch Aspect says, W, Instagram post ad. Thank you, my man. Happy you enjoyed it. If you all don't know, I posted a couple Instagram pics just from the trip to Alaska. Had a pretty good caption. My caption on Instagram was, don't draft Cortland Sutton. It was a pretty good one. It's hard for me to share my screen. If you want to see it, Instagram, Mason_Dodd. Don't really care if y'all follow my Instagram or not, though. Okay, so Adam says, Mason, my player exposure would blow your mind. I have players I'm very high on. My exposures, I have 75%. Ramondre Stevenson, Hollywood Brown, and Gabriel Davis. Oh, my. You have 75% Gabriel Davis? I pray to God that's from when he was going the 6th round and not the 4th. If you have 75% 4th round Gabriel Davis, all that money that you put into fantasy drafts this year, you probably could have done something more productive with it. I'm rooting for you, my man. I am rooting for you. Seems just a little aggressive. Okay. Deontay Johnson goes pick 40. Not too many surprises so far. Ezekiel Elliott at 37 is a little bit rich. I mean, compared to where we got him in the last draft, we got Ezekiel Elliott at 45 in the last draft. Breece Hall goes a little bit later here than he did through the first 2. James Conner sneaks his way up to pick 27. Interesting. You very rarely see James Conner go that early. Of course, at this point, the last thing we would consider is drafting a running back. Steven says, Mason, not fond of Gabriel Davis. What's really funny is, one of my most drafted players in fantasy last year was Emmanuel Sanders. I had so much Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley because they were going the double-digit rounds. You were getting like Emmanuel Sanders in round 12, round 13. Gabriel Davis stepping into that role. And I'll admit, Gabriel Davis probably a better wide receiver than Emmanuel Sanders was last year. But it's just all about the opportunity cost. It's the opportunity cost of, in the majority of these drafts, Gabriel Davis going ahead of Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver 7 last season. Gabriel Davis going ahead of Darren Waller, going ahead of Lamar, going ahead of Mahomes, going ahead of Kittle. It's just so difficult for me to pull the trigger there. Okay, Jerry Jeudy off the board, so I guess we go ahead, we queue up. I'm fine if you want to take Patrick Mahomes here. Y'all know I am. But I've taken so much Patrick Mahomes that I feel like I have to quit. I have to quit. When we have Lamar and Mahomes available to us, let's go Lamar. Let's try punting on wide receiver. Let's try going with a 0 wide receiver build, the exact opposite of what we did in the last draft. Like I said, it's a $10 draft. If I'm going to feel comfortable trying some new things out, trying to come up with unique roster combinations that I think can work, this is where I want to practice. This is where I want to try. I'm not going to try it in our $500 underdog drafts. I'm not going to try it in the $1,000 underdog draft I'm in right now. I'm not going to try it in the $250 drafts that we're going to be firing up closer to the season. Like, we'll probably end up doing like a $250 draft every single night on the live stream once we get closer to the year. I want to be comfortable with almost every single draft strategy. So yes, we are going a little reckless here, punting wide receiver through the first 5 rounds, but let's see if we can make it work. I think it is a very high upside build when we have Taylor, Javonte, Chubb, Lamar Jackson, who I believe can potentially be the quarterback 1 in fantasy. And also, love me some Kittle at 49. Now, some wide receivers going off the board in the middle of the 5th, of course. When you punt wide receiver through the first 5 rounds, we want receivers making it back to us. We really do. And let me thank everybody. I believe we were in Alaska when this happened, so I was not able to say anything on a live stream or on a video. We hit 70,000 subscribers last week. Thank you. I appreciate all of y'all. I don't think the number of subscribers really matters. The fact that y'all come out here, spend time with me every single night in these live streams, allow me to do what I love most. That's what matters the most to me. Y'all allow me to have so much fun out here every single night. So don't really care too much about our subscriber number, but I do want to thank all of y'all. Especially, I know we have like the same people out here in the live stream every single night. I truly do appreciate it, guys. I really do. Okay. And Sal says, my man, best wide receiver stacks and a half PPR. Raiders, Dolphins, question mark. I don't love either of those quarterbacks. If I'm going to look at my most stacked teammates, I hate to bring it up. I talk about it every live stream. Mahomes in the 5th, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling or Sky Moore later on. That's going to be one of my favorites. Now, if you're looking at Allen Diggs, I have a lot of Allen Diggs as well, but the opportunity cost there is a 1st and 3rd round pick. It's going to be significantly more expensive. If we're looking at some other quarterbacks a little bit later on, issue is with Kyler, you have to take usually Hollywood Brown in round 3. Other quarterbacks, I've had a decent amount of Brady Godwin. I like the Brady Godwin stack. Now that you have Julio Jones coming over, I think that the probability that Brady just takes a massive step backwards this upcoming season due to his overall downgrade with his skill positional players is lessened with Julio Jones. I'm not stacking Wilson that often because I'm not drafting Judy or Sutton that often. I've been taking a decent amount of Rodgers, like the draft that I did today today's video, our $500 draft of Rodgers, Christian Watson, Rodgers, Robert Tonyan. Done a lot of that. I'm trying to get more Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney. And one of my most popular stacks, I don't like bringing it up because in a one quarterback format, like he falls in the range of guys that you're just going to be streaming in a casual or redraft league. But I really do like the Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas stack in either a best ball format or a deeper redraft league or a redraft superflex league. But is Juju Smith-Schuster going to make it back? JT gets Mahomes at pick 52 and Juju at pick 69. Last draft, I was bragging, thinking I was one of the only teams that has been able to do that in Best Ball Mania. But no, I guess you have another team being able to get 5th round Patrick Mahomes, 6th round Juju Smith-Schuster. Okay, good for us. We have wide receivers making it back. I'm not taking... Let me be quiet. I'm not taking DeAndre Hopkins here. The reason for me passing on DeAndre Hopkins is simple. With Hopkins, he's missing the first 6 weeks of the season, and this is not a league that has the fantasy football playoffs at the very end. This is not a league where we need to prioritize production weeks 15, 16, and 17. Points in weeks 1 matter just as much as points in weeks 15, 16, 14. So let's go ahead and instead take the combination of Devonta Smith as well as Drake London. I'm not a big fan of taking Dalton Schultz. Like Dalton Schultz, I thought was a fine price when he was going back-to-back with TJ Hawkinson. But now that you've had Schultz move to where he's being drafted at the beginning of the 6th round a lot in these drafts, I'm just out there. Jessica Manouts says, thank you for what you do. No, thank you, my man, for supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Promise you. Hugh coming out says, where are you taking Trace McSorley? If y'all don't know, last year, I think we had a bunch of people spamming the chat saying to play Trace McSorley highlights. I guess he had a popular song or something. We ended up looking up. We ended up getting copyright, like copy infringement, whatever the hell it's called. The live stream ended up getting taken down. Not doing that again. Not playing freaking Trace McSorley highlights to ruin a live stream. Oh, dear. One of the worst mistakes we've ever made. But after we take Devonta Smith, Drake London, you have Wilson, Lance, Schultz, and Miles Sanders all off the board. Let me know what y'all think of this. Would you have rather seen me pass on Lamar Jackson at 48, take Allen Robinson instead, and then pass on London for Trey Lance to pair up with Kittle? Like I said, last year I was the leader of the Trey Lance fan club, specifically in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I was fighting people on Trey Lance every single day. Every single video was, I love Lance. You're underrating Lance. You're underrating Lance. He's a top 12 quarterback in fantasy football. Look at his rushing. Look at his situation. He's immediately a quarterback one the day he steps on the football field. I don't know if I could draft him at this price point now. In the last draft, he went before Burrow. Here he's going right next to Burrow. I thought I was going to be the highest Trey Lance guy my entire life. Like I said, last year I was tweeting out stuff like, just took a 23andMe. Trey Lance is officially my dad. That's what we learned from the 23andMe. I'm just a little blown back by how on to Trey Lance people are after calling me so stupid last year in Dynasty for my Trey Lance love, for my Trey Lance hype. Okay. Arthur says, I'm Acrillo in the draft. What are your thoughts? Trying to improve. Okay, let's go through. Let's check this out. Of course, thank you so much for drafting with us, my man, and supporting the channel. Here at pick 10, you go Najee Harris. I think it's a standard pick. I think you're kind of stuck in no man's land at pick 10. It's not like you're super excited to take Najee, but it's whatever. CeeDee Lamb 15. I think that's going to be a great pick if you're looking at the pace of play in the pass to run ratio that you should expect from the Dallas Cowboys in game neutral environments this upcoming season. Getting him at pick 15, fantastic. Alvin Kamara at 34. This goes back to what we were speaking on with understanding your league format. And I think if you're playing in a league where we have the fantasy football playoffs in weeks 15, 16, and 17, where we need to prioritize upside for during that stretch, 100% Alvin Kamara, a pick at the end of the third, the best value in the draft. However, since this is cumulative scoring and we do have the outside chance that Kamara does serve that suspension at the beginning of the season, this would be the one spot where I'm not looking to go ahead into draft Alvin Kamara because we don't have the fantasy football playoffs. So points in week 1 matter just as much as points in week 17. Very similar to why I decided to pass on DeAndre Hopkins in favor of Drake London and Devontae Smith a little bit earlier on. Jalen Waddle, pick 39. Man, I make that pick in almost every single draft. I love it. Kyler Murray, 58. I think you're stuck in no man's land with a couple of those wide receivers on the board. I'm fine with it. Jacob, 63. I love it. Hawkinson, I like it. Pollard, I'm not drafting a ton of this year because Pollard has an ADP about 10 picks ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but here Pollard falls in the draft. CEH goes a little bit higher than expected. So yeah, I really like your draft and the decisions that you made from a pick-by-pick standpoint. A couple of those guys are not players I'm drafting very often, but I can see your thought process and why you decided to go down that route. Okay. I guess we're doing it. We are in desperate need of a wide receiver. We have Allen Lazard, in my opinion, one of the most overdrafted players in fantasy football this year with an ADP of 79, falling to us at pick 96. We'll take Lazard. We'll take Marquez Valdes-Scantling just as pieces of elite level offenses this upcoming season. I don't like Allen Lazard here. Please don't see me draft Allen Lazard here at pick 96 and think, oh, okay, we should draft. No. Allen Lazard in the majority of these drafts is going before Michael Thomas. I tweeted it out yesterday. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about it all offseason. There's nothing crazier in fantasy football in years than the fact that Allen Lazard has a higher ADP than Michael Thomas. It's probably going to change really quick when people are realizing how dumb that is with Michael Thomas back at practice. But if he's going to fall, 17 picks past his ADP, I'm in desperate need of a wide receiver. You have Sammy Watkins on the PUP. You have Christian Watson dealing with a knee injury as well. Let's take him. It sucks. It's not exciting, 100%, but it is what it is. Now we have Sky Moore, pick 100. Devin Singletary, 101. Let me see how much Marquez Valdes-Scantling that I've drafted. Because I felt like Marquez Valdes-Scantling wasn't someone I was taking very often until we began drafting so much Patrick Mahomes, with Patrick Mahomes falling to the 5th round. But MVS is all of a sudden a player that we probably are higher than on, I guess, actually, no, we only have 9% Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I thought we had more. Probably going to end up with more and more and more now that we have such a fine price tag on Mahomes. So we have a run on running backs here with Singletary, James Cook, Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Walker, all off the board in the middle of the 9th round. Probably going to be pretty good for us, considering the fact, going back to what we did at the beginning of this draft, we're going to have Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Nick Chubb on the same roster. We have the elite level quarterback, the elite level tight ends. So I'm fine with where we stand everywhere but receiver. But like I said, best ball format. So I think we can attack the position with depth rather than top end talent. So hopefully we're piecing together this wide receiver core one by one. Hopefully we have some more value falling to us. Let me say, I love that Tyler Lockett pick at 106. Yeah, it's a horrible situation, but if you look at Lockett's production over the past 3 years, if you look at his yards per route run, off the top of my head, 2.5 yards per route run last year. Like the only wide receivers that are having as large of a yards per route run as Tyler Lockett, Chase, Jefferson, Kupp, Adams, A.J. Brown, maybe one or two other wide receivers I'm missing. Like that's the group of receivers Tyler Lockett's in with his yards per route run. He out-targeted DK Metcalf in games that Russell Wilson did not start last year. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so let's move this over. We can take another quarterback. We can take another tight end. We can take another running back as well. I think at this point, we have a very flexible draft. We're definitely hoping that we have wide receiver value making it to us. But say Aaron Rodgers falls, I'm not going to have any issue taking Aaron Rodgers on a team where we decided to draft down Lazard. Kirk Cousins would be someone that I'm probably not too excited about drafting. In theory, we could go Kirk Cousins and Irv Smith Jr., but I don't love this Irv Smith Jr. price tag. Someone that I was drafting very often right when these drafts opened up, when Irv Smith Jr. was going a few rounds behind this. but it seems very aggressive for Irv Smith Jr. to have an ADP of 121, Gesicki to be going 15 picks behind that, Hunter Henry to go 24 picks behind that, and Albert O to go 31 picks behind that. Like, all of a sudden, I am not a massive Irv Smith Jr. guy as I was at the beginning of the offseason. Rodgers off the board. I would have liked taking Rodgers, especially if we could have paired him up with Watson on the turn. Let's see. Jay Strauss on the clock. They have Mahomes at quarterback. I wonder if they decide to go with the McCole Hardman. Gosh, I need to start grabbing 2 water cups for this live stream. I'm dying over here, guys. I'm freaking dying. Okay, we have Christian Watson off the board. One player that I really like for this format. One player that I really like for this setup. Jags fan on the clock. I think he'll probably give him to us. Yeah, we're going to go Rondale Moore 100%. If we're looking at Rondale Moore here, this is a wide receiver that should have that expanded role for the beginning portion of the season. I think by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs in weeks 15, 16, and 17, not going to be that exciting because obviously you'll have Hopkins, you'll have Hollywood Brown. But for those first 6 weeks, he should give you, I don't want to say top end production, but I wouldn't be surprised through the first 6 weeks if Rondale Moore was a top 24 wide receiver. And as I've discussed, this is cumulative scoring here. So I think that is going to be very valuable. Ronald Jones, I'm just trying to get as many pieces of this Kansas City Chiefs offense as I possibly can. Every single draft. I'm fine with 8th round Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm fine with 11th round Ronald Jones. I'm even fine with 18th round Jerick McKinnon. Like, I think all these guys are undervalued in a vacuum. Now, I'm not trying to target the running backs on the same roster. Like, it's not like I draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 8th round and I'm like, okay, hell yes, let's go get Ronald Jones in the 11th. No, because you are betting that when we take Ronald Jones here that he does lead the NFL in carries. But I think that very similar to what we had last year with the combination of Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, combination of James Conner and Chase Edmonds. These are uncertain backfields where we don't know how the touches are going to break down. But what we do know is the offenses should be elite. You should have a ridiculous amount of production in Kansas City, just like you did in Tampa last year, just like you did in Arizona the year before that. So I'm all in on taking shots on these uncertain backfields in elite level offenses. Okay. Now, it's about to be 10. I have plans. I am going to have to cut this live stream after this pick at 11, but I got great news for you. Don't be mad at me. Please don't be mad at me. We are live for almost 2 hours here. And the great news is we're going to live stream every single night from this point to the end of the fantasy football season. We are going to get real money fantasy football drafts going every single night. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. And if you want to draft with us, if you want to draft in the public lobby, if you want to have some fun, get our 2022 draft guide, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Go start drafting on Underdog. Use promo code FLOCK when you do, and they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And you will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. But outside of that, really hope that y'all have a great night. Really hope that we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow night, the video in the morning. And if you want to join a free fantasy football group chat, I will send the link out in the live chat. If you don't want to join, no harm, no foul. Just click the link if you do. You don't need an email, don't need a credit card. All you need to do is click the link, choose a little nickname that you want to go by in the group chat, and then you're in a group chat with way too many people. I think we have 6,000 members in this fantasy football group chat, so you can, of course, get so many opinions on everything. But thank you. I appreciate all of y'all. Hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow night.